So as you're talking about this, I can imagine. Tell me if I'm wrong, but when you train L&D professionals on this, do their eyes kind of get a little big? Like, I've got to create all this content. Like, how am I going to create all this content? Because traditionally we think of, we've got the LMS, right, and we've got our classroom training that we're going to do, but now you're talking about surrounding people with all these learning resources. What's the reaction there, and how do you kind of calm their fears a bit?
Yeah, I think whenever you're talking about something new, there can be that initial panic feeling like, oh, wow, have I bitten off more than I can chew here? And what's so cool about LCD model is two things. One is that, well, actually, I can think of a million cool things, but these are the two I'm highlighting right now. One is that you still start with essentially the same content pool that would go into your class course or set of videos or blended learning or whatever. Um, and you're really still with that content pool, but you're now chunking it out. So it's more like a top heavy process, a front loaded process. If you do that change action and learn action really well, at the end, what you're doing is really just divvying up the content that you were going to put in one program into these different assets. So it's not like you're creating a ton more content. It's more the framing and the design of that content that might be changing depending on which asset and which persona you're targeting. So it's a lot more around the chunking piece, and that usually helps calm people down. The other piece is that we were very thoughtful, Lisa and I, about how much change we introduce with the model itself. We really think it's important to respect our time-honored expertise and everywhere that we've come from. And so, sure, we could have introduced something that's really fully brand new. A lot of times when people look at the 5 actions, they'll say, well, this is nothing new. Of course, we set goals. Of course, we learn about our audience. Of course, we think about designing training, and that's kind of and can be an immediate reaction. But since the entire philosophy and the goal is different, it creates a difference in each of those actions. But it's not so far that people can't relate it back to, oh, yeah, I've written learning objectives before. Oh, yeah, I've thought about my audience, but oh, you know what? I really didn't have a guided framework for thinking about my audience. Now I do. So it often is actually seen as more guidance than they've had um, to thinking about these things, and yet still feels very intuitive because it doesn't disregard where we've come from. And we actually have this really great graphic that people love that shows how the LCD model integrates with other models, and that's been really cool because people can see how Addy plays in, or how SAM plays in, or Agile plays in, or design thinking, or Bloom's taxonomy. And so we really show that, hey, you're using what you already have in your toolkit, but you're bringing it under this new umbrella.